Different programs can become outdated. For example, they teach you a specific strategy that doesn't work with the current algorithm. Like, hey, you make this video and it does work in this way and you make it this long and then you say this and you don't say these words in the beginning of the first 5 seconds. That doesn't work anymore.
Welcome to the Part-time YouTuber Accelerator.
I've been part of this program since March.
There was just an overwhelming amount of people.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Our job as YouTubers is to get people to click.
I've interviewed 8 students from PTYA and we're going to share our insights.
My average view duration was 14%. My retention levels went up to 40.
Is kind of our done with you service. So we've got our Part-time YouTuber Academy, which is mostly a do-it-yourself course. But the Part-time YouTuber Accelerator is the Part-time YouTuber Academy, but it also includes an enormous support component for the next 12 months.
I would say the feedback from the students is around a few points. The quality of the information, type of information, and relevance of the information based on their YouTube experience. Let's start with the Part-time YouTuber Academy. What is the main reason that you invested in PTYA?
Accountability, personalized advice, and structure.
What do you mean by structure?
Because you see a lot of content and you can feel a little bit overwhelmed. For me, like a beginner, I need a structure, kind of step-by-step guidance to choose the best way to consume the content.
I have a plan that lays out how the YouTube journey works. Because it's more than just like, hey, make videos and put them out. Where do I start? How do I start to find my niche? How do I think about a good video? What does make a good video? How do I need to think about engagement?
And I remember you mentioned before that you have tried out different programs.
Yes.
What makes you feel like this is a structure that you want to follow?
Because it is timeless. For example, different programs can become outdated. PTYA seems to me to not teach a technique that may or may not be outdated in a day or two, but rather teaches principles and how you think about building this and how you go about it that make it work by default.
Do you feel like PTYA had an influence in your monetization journey?
I definitely learned quite a lot right at the beginning of PTYA about how to structure videos. I had not really thought about things like hooks. I had not really thought about writing out a script or what level of detail I should write out the script at. I hadn't thought about different structures that you could have for your video, like listicles or 3 parts and so on. So I made very rapid improvement with my first couple of videos, and I got really lucky and I made a video that actually really took off. It became pretty viral.
I do think that the amount of value this brings does depend on the individual's specific experience.
Because I had a background working the YouTube channel, most of the stuff I probably already knew.
Now I want to move on to the support component, which is what we're going to talk about for the remaining part of this video. The support component contains a lot of perks. This includes 90 minutes of Q&A, office hours, the Slack hotline, the feedback options like 26 feedback reviews, and accountability calls. The monthly Q&A and office hours ranked really high for reasons why students initially invested in PTYA.
I personally do a 90-minute Q&A.
The monthly Q&A with Ali, like I didn't really know what that setup would look like, but I was just like, okay, like we can ask him questions, like very cool.
The monthly Q&A with Ali, like this is one thing that I actually valued highly. If the course creator is still available, that shows me that the person is invested in making people succeed. So it was less about the value he would give, but it was more a sign to me that this is not a dead product that somebody just created to make some cash and then runs off with it.
He's somebody I knew, I trusted, and I felt that he knew how to grow his channel. He was the expert, and the ability to actually ask questions directly to the expert, right? Ali has a whole team, but having access to Ali himself, as does the Accelerator program, adds a lot of value to me.
There's definitely more students that have questions than time Ali has to answer all these questions. So there's definitely going to be students that are not going to have an opportunity to have their questions answered live.
The other major perk is every single day you get office hours with different members of my team.
It's hard to find specialists who are trustworthy because there are a lot online that you can find, but you don't know how good they are. The office hours are basically the direct access to Ali's team.
I'll always Google something if I have a question, but instead of getting into that like cycle of like information overwhelm and not knowing how to discern what to listen to, what to pay attention to. I was like, I can just go to these office hours and ask my questions.
If you have very specific questions, it's good to just have a group of experts that you can consult.
Having direct conversations with the team helped me with my transformation. It wasn't just my questions, it was listening to other people's questions, and it was other people that were on the weekly call.
I personally saw a lot of value of going to office hours and having direct access to Ali's team, but I have to admit that in the last 6 months, I might have attended 2 office hours, and I think that is because of time zones.
This has been kind of the issue for me, in which I want to use them more, but the hours are awful. 3 or 4 a.m. I value my sleep over waking up to possibly get a question answered, because sometimes they don't know the answer right away anyways.
I mean, the point of live sessions is that it's live, right? But that's also the con for live sessions. I would say time zones doesn't only impact office hours, it actually impacts all live sessions.
I have been to the monthly mastermind, and I haven't been recently, and I want to. It's just honestly at the same time as my therapy session. So I do prioritize therapy.
And it happens at a very specific time, and if you're not there for it, then I do have to say that there is one perk that is, I guess, live that does not have to do with time zones.
The 12 months of Slack access, I really like that, because it's not just access to her litter mate, it's also access to Ali's team.
My team is in there every single day replying to the questions that you've got.
This is where I meet people who are highly valued, such as yourself. I wanted to get to know them more, because it takes a lot more time than just a month to get to know people.
The Slack hotline is actually only available for Accelerator students. Students that are only part of the Part-time YouTuber Academy have access to the Circle community instead.
It's a huge community, and I'm glad it's there, because I think people who don't have the exec package should have a place where they can have community too. It's just really overwhelming for me.
There was just an overwhelming amount of people, and I don't have the mental capacity to respond to so many people.
The Circle community has actually dropped in value to me. Low, because I probably won't use it, too complicated, like too many different threads. It looks like a forum.
Too much going on in Circle, and I didn't know where to focus my energy. I don't feel like I got strong connections afterwards. I gave them this feedback already. That Circle was too overwhelming for me. Like, I still get notifications today from Circle, like 8 notifications a day. I don't know what to do with those notifications.
I barely use Circle, and I probably use Slack 2 to 3 times a day. I think that's mainly because of feedback. There's this channel where you can just ask your peers for feedback, and I find it really, really helpful. But that's not the only avenue for feedback in PTYA. There's actually 2 official channels to get feedback.
A personalized video review for one of your videos every 2 weeks for the next 52 weeks.
They give me complete and deeper feedback. I think it's important.
Video feedback has helped to increase my retention levels. My average view duration was 14%. It's really low. That's a problem that I wanted to solve, and I wanted to drill that and really focus on that and really master it until I move on to the next skill set. After the cohort and asking Ali so many questions and involving with support and accountability, my retention levels went up to 40. That's really where the money is.
I thought the feedback was quite helpful. I'm going to say the video feedback is, compared to everything else, quite valuable.
And it kind of is keeping me accountable and trying to make sure I'm at least trying to create 2 videos a month.
When I post something, I get feedback from somebody like, hey, by the way, I didn't watch your video. Like, thank you, because that's a lot of time investment. Like, here's a tip on your light, here's a tip on your structure. And by the way, the subtitles were a little bit weird, I would change that. Like, that stuff can save you months.
We don't know our own blind spots. But if there's no team, then you're just like making yourself insane, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But whereas with the PTYA and the support and the accountability, it's like, hey, Nathalie, you suck at this? Oh, great, thanks. I needed that.
All trying to get 1% better with each video, but it's hard for me as somebody that does back then that didn't know what I was doing to give myself that feedback.
Would you ever consider the Accelerator program, or at what stage you think would be appropriate for someone to consider the accelerator program.
I would be willing to take the accelerator in the future. I'm more invested in my channel. I'm willing to commit the money that's required, but I would do it when I felt that I was no longer able to improve my scripts and my videos on my own. When I started needing that external feedback again.
Feedback for me was one of the main reasons why I joined PTYA. It was a huge motivation for me to have experts comment on what are the 3 things I really need to work on next. Now that I've submitted 8 video feedback, I have to admit that the quality of feedback may vary.
I think they have too many people in the program and not enough feedback givers. So some of my feedback wasn't very useful for me.
I do think it depends on who is giving you feedback. The second official format for feedback is channel audits.
When I started, I didn't have anybody. So I was like, yes, I need to make sure I'm starting off on the right foot. The 2 channel audits, that's very valuable for me, particularly when I was making the investment decision. If somebody watches a video and they like my stuff, but they go to my channel and they don't like what they see, then all the work I've done to get them there is wasted.
The last part I want to cover here is accountability groups. I do think that there are some differing opinions on this one.
I was in a couple different accountability groups because they have you at different levels. Like say like you're entry level into YouTube, you join that group. The beginner level, there was a lot of people in that. But I don't want to learn from beginners. I want to learn from people who are just above me. So that's why I joined those groups. But then those groups became really, really small very, very quickly. I think the last meeting we only had like 5 people in that meeting. We have a WhatsApp group, but I haven't heard anybody from the WhatsApp group. But I also haven't posted in the WhatsApp group, so it's also my fault.
The thing that I like the most is actually like accountability calls, because you eventually kind of consolidate into this core group that you meet with every week. There's continuity and it's really helpful to get you moving, even if sometimes you lose that momentum. They get to know you and your troubles, so the help you get can be a lot more specific.
I'm not a write down your goals person and then do your goals. I wake up every morning and think, how am I going to move the needle on the things that are important for me? If I had a predefined path at the beginning of the month, half of the magic of the way that I work would be negated.
I do want to call out a potential perk that is not formally listed, probably because it can't be guaranteed, but you probably got a glimpse of this from the previous interviews, and I would say that perk is community.
At the beginning, I didn't see the importance to connect with another people, but when I talk to you or people who like to have a lot of knowledge in different stuff and they have the same struggles like me, we are humans, and we connect. And yes, I think this is important to have a partner with you during this journey.
Just like Julio, community wasn't the main reason why I joined PTYA, but really is probably the most meaningful perk for me right now.
Before I joined PTYA, I already had invested into other YouTube programs. With the other YouTube programs, they don't care about community, they don't care people connecting with other people, and it's like, here's the information and go figure it out on your own type of thing, which is awesome. But I felt like with the accelerator, the community aspect really makes a huge difference in you.
Because the community is what drives most programs. That's where the accountability comes from. That's where the support comes from.
I felt like I've learned so much from my peers in all aspects of my life. I just feel really privileged to have this community of people to support me in what could have been a very, very lonely journey. Just the fact that I'm able to do this video with 8 people from all over the world is something I couldn't imagine a year ago. I know that every program has its pros and cons, and I'm obviously biased, but I do hope that this video has shed some nuances to this program and has helped you make a decision. And if you did make a decision, please check out my affiliate link below. That would help me out a lot. If you still need more information, feel free to check out another video that I've done for PTYA. Here I talk through 5 questions that might be helpful in making this decision. But before we end, I do want to end with one last insight. So here it is.
On the fence regarding, hey, if I should do this thing for 12 months, what is it that you're wanting to get out of the program? Is it just to have fun? Is it to enjoy? Is it to be part of a community that you weren't part of before? Is it to make friends? Is it to make money? If your why is deep enough to where it makes you cry, I mean, I know I can be extreme sometimes, I can be exaggerating sometimes, but I'm being so serious. If you know that you really want to build this life that you've been wanting to for years, because it hasn't been a couple months, it's been like 2, 3, 4 years. How long are you going to continue to wait? You expect a different life and a different result. You gotta be willing to do something different. We gotta be adventurous. If you want it bad enough, like, hey, go for it, jump with full faith, and you'll never know what you're gonna get out of it.